Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're going to dive into something called What Remains When the Bullshit Falls Away. And we're going to skip the usual pleasantries this time because honestly, the tool we're looking at today really demands it. It's built specifically for those of us who are just completely exhausted by performative self-help. I mean, if you've ever felt like those endless optimization hacks, the 30-day transformation plans, or those toxic positive gratitude journals are just, scratching the surface of a much deeper issue, well, you are definitely in the right place. We're breaking down a 6-month private journey called What Remains, and I'm telling you, it is unlike anything else out there. I want you to picture something. It's a moment most adults experience pretty much every single day. You know that heavy pause right after you turn off the car engine, but right before you actually get out and open your front door? It's those 90 seconds in the driveway. In that really brief window, you aren't the highly optimized leader at work, and you aren't the parent or partner at home either. You're just you, sitting there, knowing exactly how much of your day was actually real and how much was just a performance. And that really brings us to the core of our whole journey today. Who are you when the costume comes off? It's not just some light philosophical question. It's a direct challenge. It forces us to confront that gap between the life we present to the world, on LinkedIn, to our bosses, even to our closest friends, and the life we actually live in those quiet moments. And this journal was built to live exactly inside that gap. All right, part one. From boardroom to brush stroke, the catalyst. Let's get into the origin story. To really grasp why this tool is so brutally effective, you have to understand the guy who created it, Keith Alan Jones. His background is fascinating. So he spends 16 years in the US Army, learning true military-grade discipline. Then he transitions into the corporate world for 20 years, rising all the way up to chief people officer, managing thousands of employees and pioneering AI systems. But the real climax here is his firing. He wasn't let go for poor performance. He was fired because he flat out refused to sign off on systemic misconduct. He actually chose transparency over the system itself. And in the fallout of all that, in June of 2025, he picks up a paintbrush for the very first time. And that experience led to a brilliant, albeit tough, realization. He said, "The system doesn't reward integrity. It rewards alignment." When he pushed for transparency, the system pushed him out. That moment completely shattered his corporate illusion. He realized he'd given his absolute best years to a machine that was never, ever going to give them back. Which leads to the visual manifestation of that betrayal. This character right here, Scully Jones. It's a skeleton wearing a corporate suit. Keith created Scully to represent what happens when you strip away the ego, the fancy title, and the corporate role. Scully is the version of a person that exists underneath all that heavy corporate armor. When the costume is finally gone, Scully is what's left standing. Okay, part two. A mirror, not a system. So after this massive disruption in his life, Keith goes looking for a way to process it all. He tried the books, the courses, therapy, but everything kind of failed him. Look at standard self-help, gratitude journals, and habit trackers. Honestly, forced gratitude usually just feels like putting glitter on a wound, right? And productivity systems just ask you to optimize the exact same machine that discarded you in the first place. He needed something else. He needed what remains. No gurus, no toxic, you've got this pep talks. Just raw, unvarnished honesty. And maybe more importantly, we need to talk about what this is explicitly not. We are so conditioned to use corporate apps and digital dashboards for everything. What remains is 100% offline. It is physical paper. There's no algorithm tracking you, no cloud sync, and absolutely no HR surveillance. It isn't some corporate wellness program. It's just an honest, physical space between you and yourself. And here is the actual artifact. It's a 193-page physical book, just 5.5 by 8.5 inches. Notice how stark and unintimidating the design is. It's meant to literally live on your nightstand or get tossed in your backpack. It is absolutely not designed to be some performative coffee table piece that looks good on Instagram. It's built for work, not for show. Moving on to part three, the 6-month mechanism. Now, this isn't just a book of blank pages. There is a precise, almost military-inspired daily cadence that drives the whole thing. It requires just 10 to 15 minutes a day. You start with a quick commitment check. Basically, did you keep the promise you made yesterday? Then you get day-themed prompts, followed by the foundational what remains question. And finally, you get a short, often pretty profane, and never therapeutic quote from Scully Jones. It's super direct And the themes actually evolve to ride alongside your work week, but without taking over your weekends. So Monday asks what actually mattered beyond your basic to-do list. Tuesday strips away self-doubt and asks what real effort built. Wednesday is great. It confronts the flinch, like what did you actively avoid today? Thursday names the actual people who showed up for you. And Friday just takes stock of the week. It perfectly captures the reality of your days as they happen.
But here is where the magic really happens, the monthly snapshot. At the end of the month, you actually stop journaling and you start reading. You look back at your own handwriting from the past 4 weeks to identify patterns. Because think about it, if you write down the same complaint in week 3 and again in week 19, that is not a bad day anymore, right? That's a pattern. And as Keith points out, patterns are usually just decisions you haven't made yet.
Which brings us to part 4, the power of privacy.
This is the absolute foundation of the whole project. Why a physical book? Why completely offline? Because privacy is not just a feature here. It is literally the whole mechanism. The minute you think someone else might read your words, whether that's a therapist, your partner, or even just an AI algorithm, you instantly start performing. You start curating your thoughts. And the second you start performing, you've completely defeated the purpose of doing this.
I absolutely love the mandate printed on the back cover. It is incredibly stark. The only rule is that you do not lie to it. This journal is meant to be a mirror. It asks you to make one single promise, and that promise only actually works because the total privacy makes lying completely unnecessary. There's no one to impress. Finally, part 5, what actually remains? Let's talk about the payoff.
If you actually commit to this, just 10 minutes a day, Monday through Friday for 6 months, what do you get? Well, you walk away with 4 concrete things. First, clarity on what truly matters, which is proven by how you actually spent your time. Second, a physical record of who you were versus who you pretended to be. Third, massive pattern recognition over your own life. And fourth, a reckoning. Notice it doesn't say closure and it doesn't promise a magical transformation. It's just hard-earned truth built entirely on self-written evidence.
Ultimately, the paper and the ink, that's not the point. 6 months from now, you're going to look back at your very first entry, and you will either completely not recognize the person who wrote it, or you will understand exactly why you had to buy this mirror in the first place. The real product here is those 6 months of truth. So I'll leave you with this lingering anchor question that actually closes out every single page of the journal. When you finally strip away the title, all the noise, the ego, and the performance, 6 months, what remains? Think about that the next time you're just sitting there in the driveway. Thanks for joining me on The Explainer today.